the limud should be the refuat kol hacholim, uvetucham Tanya Badoda Magali, Yosef Yair ben Aviv Achava, Harav Sivan ben Sima, betoch kol shar cholei Yisrael. We know that the Ramban calls Sefer Shmot Sefer Galut v'Geula, the story of exile and redemption. But a lot of times we have to ask ourselves, what is exile? And on the basic level, exile is obviously a place. But on a deeper level, exile is a concept. It's a mindset. It's a lifestyle. That you might be somewhere, you might even be in front of the kotel, but you're still in exile. You might be in the presence of greatness, but you're still in exile. And when we enter into the parsha of Vayichei, there's something that happens that's different than any other parsha in the entire Torah. In every parsha, when you end it, there's a space, and then there's a new parsha. When we get to parsha of Vayichei, it goes straight from Vayigash into Vayichei. There's no space. Says Rashi, this is the moment that Galut started. And so the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what could it be that Rashi is saying, based on the Midrash, that the lack of space is the definition of the beginning of exile? If you want to say to me that exile is when you leave the land, that everyone understands. If you want to say to me exile is that you're a slave to Paro, everyone understands. But to say that exile starts when Yaakov is alive, Yosef is alive, the dream is alive, there's no exile, there's things that are difficult. The Pasuk at the end Vayigash says great things. Vayifru, vayirbu, vayitzmu me'od. The Jewish people are prospering. Everything looks good. Everything is great. Says Rashi, although externally there's so much success, internally exile starts where there is no space. So the question the Sfat Emet asks himself in 1871 is, what's the symbolism of this space? It says something incredible. The letters are what's given to us by Hashem. And the space is what leaves room for man to get involved. And he says that in every parsha, Hashem takes a step back and leaves room for us to get involved, to ask, to question, to be creative. But there's one parsha that there's none of this space. There's no involvement. There's no input. There's no questions that people are involved. That is exile, says Rashi. Sfat Emet says that the moment that you become passive is where exile begins. You might be surrounded by light, but if you are not involved, if you're not affecting, if you're not giving your input, then although you're surrounded by greatness, you're living in exile. There's one time that I asked myself, what is the greatest struggle of the modern day? And a lot of people will call it laziness, but it's not true. People are doing and doing and doing. But wherever they're confronted with reality that's a little bit complicated, they become passive. Our problem is not laziness, it's passivity. It's that people say that if something is complicated, then the game is over. If things are difficult, then I go to sleep. If people are questioning me, then I become silent. That's exile. Exile is where you stop being involved. My bracha when we walk into Parshat Vayichei is that we understand and realize and recognize that exile is not just a place, but it's the concept of how do you view yourself. Are you controlled by reality? Do you feel that you can't make a difference? Then you're in exile. And then Paro will come and the world will fall apart. But whenever you realize that you are the space, that you could be involved, that you could add, that you could interpret, that you could question, that you could ask, that you're always in the world of redemption. So the bracha in this Shabbat is that we create space, is that we realize that in the places that there's void, it's not a problem. It's an opportunity for us to be involved, to get involved, to give a concept that we do not watch things, but we get involved in things. Shabbat Shalom.